Gina Carano, the former MMA fighter and actress, has been uncancelled, I'm happy to say. I want to congratulate Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire. Why? Because they have helped to uncancel Gina Carano. And this is all very important because, well, here's the backstory. Gina Carano was on Disney's show The Mandalorian, and Disney decided, along with Lucasfilms, that they would respond to pressure from the left and cancel Gina Carano. Why? Because of her social media tweets. She was apparently seen as having made light of the whole trans issue. She was accused of being anti-Semitic. Now, that's a very serious charge, and it's worth paying attention to for a moment. Gina Carano wrote, Jews were beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors and even by children. And then she goes on to say, how is that any different from hating someone for their political views? Now, there is nothing anti-Semitic about this. And that isn't even just my view. Even Jonathan Chait, who's a writer for New York Magazine, a reliable leftist, a progressive, even he is a little taken aback by this, taken aback by the characterization of Gina Carano as anti-Semitic. And he quotes Gina Carano, the quote I just gave, and he says, overheated comparisons to Nazi Germany are quite common, and more to the point, not anti-Semitic, in italics. There is no hint anywhere in this post of sympathy for Nazis or blame for their victims. And Jonathan Chait goes on to say that Hollywood is now apparently returning to the days of its blacklist. He says in the 1940s and 50s, Hollywood had a blacklist, and it was aimed at people who had suspected communist affiliations. And he goes, now they're bringing it back. And he goes, it's becoming increasingly difficult to distinguish the blacklist policy from the emerging current treatment of right-wingers. Jonathan Chait even goes on to fault the media. He goes, they've been reporting this Gina Carano stuff as if she really was anti-Semitic. They're just taking it as obvious and at face value, even though, he goes, when you scrutinize what she said, there's no anti-Semitism there at all. Now, conservatives obviously are lucky to have a rare ally like Jonathan Chait on this issue, because it is amazing how many liberals have forgotten about their commitment to free speech and to the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights has now essentially become verboten on the left. But it's one thing even for conservatives to complain about this stuff. And it's another whole thing to do something about it. The good thing about what Ben Shapiro is doing and Daily Wire is doing is they've partnered with Gina Carano and said, hey, listen, guys, let's make a film together. Gina Carano has an idea for a movie in which she would star, and they're going to start working on making this happen. And here's Gina Carano. She goes, I cried out and my prayer was answered. I'm sending out a direct message of hope to everyone living in fear of cancellation by the totalitarian mob. I love this, to take someone who they're trying to destroy your career and give them a sense of hope. As many of you know, I have tried in my career over the last really 8 years now, not just to criticize Michael Moore films, but to make my own documentaries better, more intelligent, more successful than his, and have an impact. Last year, Debbie and I released our first feature film called Infidel, which got very good reviews and tremendous audience acclaim, and is now available on DVD. We have 3 to 4 film projects already in the works right now. So this is the solution. The solution ultimately is not just to be a culture critic, but to create culture. To create, you may say, alternative culture. That's what the left did. When they didn't like the culture that was here, traditional culture, they created bohemian and alternative culture that became the mainstream culture. And if we want to now see more movies with traditional themes and traditional heroes celebrating patriotism and heroism, we better start making some culture of our own.